What's up, sisters? Welcome back to another episode of For My Sisters with Delle Podcast. If you're new here, then hey, sis, hey. I hope you stick around. And if you're returning, you already know I'm glad to talk to you again. As you can see by the title of today's episode, we are going to be talking about loneliness, okay? In honor of Mental Health Awareness Month, this month is that month. I was like, we got to talk about this. And then the U.S. Surgeon General just put out a public notice talking about this. So I was like, ooh, and haven't been someone who struggled with loneliness. You already know we got to dive in. But before we dive into today's topic, I have to remind you, check the show notes and check the description box. If you're watching on YouTube, if you like video podcasts, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Daily Dell. All of that's down below in the show notes. And make sure that you click the links, you look around. We got some amazing sponsors in the description box and show notes. You got, my newsletter. So if you want to get encouragement and just gems and get to know me on a deeper level surrounding business, faith, and life, then join my newsletter, my official Rondelle Martin newsletter. If you like Christian apparel, eco-friendly fashion, things that can help you ignite your faith and represent the Lord with style and grace, then make sure you check out Royalty and Righteousness. That's my clothing line, royaltyandrighteousness.com. And you can also find us on Instagram and Facebook under Royalty and Righteousness. We are in the midst of going through a mini relaunch, but stuff is still on there. You can still buy t-shirts. You can still buy the throw pillows, the caps. So knock yourself out. But I am going to be introducing some new products, swapping some things out. So some things you see now, you won't see again, and things like that. So definitely grab your t-shirts. They're soft, they're eco-friendly, sustainable, just everything. Very, very comfy and all of that. And if you are a Christian single woman, meaning you are not engaged or married, then check out my organization, Single and Saved in the City. We are lit, okay? We have monthly meetups, in person and or virtual, just depends. I try to do both every month, but honestly, it depends. We're now ramping up our in-person meetups again because the first quarter this year was a doozy. I was going through it. So now that we outside, okay, we outside now. So tap in, go to singleandsavedinthecity.com. Make sure you join the newsletter so you can get all of the tea. We got a lot coming up. So this year was the first year we had our Favor and Finances conference. That's going to be a yearly thing. Usually around March, April, that's my aim. It was impactful. You could catch the replay of it. You could buy it on the website on singleandsavedinthecity.com. It's 5 hours of gems and strategies of how to step up your financial game, start a community organization, a nonprofit, start an e-commerce store. Like, get the replay, okay? 6 CEOs, including myself, were dropping strategies and gems like to help you see transformation in the next 60 to 90 days. So check out the website. Join the private Facebook group. Just type in Single and Saved in the City and find us on Instagram at Single Saved in the City. And, also we have the Kingdom Girls Getaway coming up May 2024. That's a tentative date, but I'm working with the resort and the travel agency right now. Y'all don't want to miss it. It's limited space, but it's going to be an experience, luxury, okay? Soft life, living your best soft life, bonding with other single women from around the country, maybe even around the world. If some of our, international members show up, it's going to be bomb. So y'all tap into that. If you're a single woman, tap in, okay? So now that we got all of that out the way, let's go ahead and dive into today's topic. Like I said, I was intrigued by this because I saw an article by the U.S. Surgeon General in the New York Times saying we have an epidemic. So of course I'm like, what? Like, we just got out of a pandemic. Can we live? Can we catch a break? Like, what's this epidemic now? And so I opened it up and he's talking about loneliness being an epidemic in the US. And I was like, wow, okay, this is intriguing. So after I read the article, I went to the actual public notice, like the full notice that he wrote, and it was over 80 pages long. So just know I didn't read every line of that 80-page document. I skimmed through the areas and the sections that interested me the most so I could get, the juice and the gems of what I was trying to say today and just understand a little bit more as to like my journey with loneliness. Like I said, I feel like most of us have struggled with loneliness, and I believe we have because 2/3 of U.S. adults, according to the article, almost 60% of U.S. adults struggle with loneliness. And this is across all ages, ethnicities, socioeconomic backgrounds. So this isn't just something where it's like, oh, just that group over there or just, this person over there. Like, no. I mean, certain groups might struggle more than others. Like I know 13% of US senior citizens struggle with depression and loneliness. A lot of them are in facilities or, they're just not able to live the life that they used to live because they're older. They're not able to be more as mobile as they once were, So some groups, I'm sure in certain seasons deal with it more than others, but we all deal with it. And so that was an eye opener for me because I was like, wow, a lot of us are walking around here struggling with loneliness. So we really are not alone. You know how we tell people like, you're not alone, you're not the only one going through it, but it's like, no, like we really are not alone, but we feel alone. And that's how loneliness works. You could be in a room full of people, you could have tons of friends, tons of family and all that, and still feel unseen, unheard, unvalued. And honestly, majority of the adults, according to this public notice, that suffer with loneliness or struggle with loneliness, they struggle with it so deep to the point where they're like, if I were to disappear tomorrow or something were to happen to me tomorrow, nobody would notice and nobody would care. And that was very saddening. And I've been there where I felt like, does anybody really value me? Like, am I really important to anybody? Like, if something were to happen to me tomorrow, would anybody really miss me? So that's a dark place to be in. I've been there. Like I said, with maybe a mental health awareness month, I was like, I got to talk about this because it does impact our mental health, our emotional health, even our physical health. Loneliness impacts our physical health the same way that smoking 15 cigarettes a day would impact our physical health. It makes us more susceptible and at risk for viruses, for respiratory disease, for heart attack, and even stroke. Like it literally impacts all of us in a mental, emotional, and physical way. So it's a real thing out here. And a lot of us are suffering in silence because it's hard sometimes to say how you're feeling. It's hard sometimes to be like, I'm struggling right now. Like, a lot of people look at me and they're like, you have these community groups, you're a mom, you don't live alone, you got your friendships, you're serving in church, and you shouldn't be lonely. But it's like, I really be lonely. Like I really be struggling with this thing. And some seasons it's hard. Like some days it is so hard. I feel like I don't matter. And it's so weird. But God, but God, the enemy be trying, life be life and all that, but God. And so I want to, in this episode, talk about why I think loneliness has become an epidemic, and then what are some things we could do to fix it. Some of these are based out of the public notice. Others are just my opinions, my observations in my own life. So definitely feel free to chime in and let me know, like, what do you think? Like, do you struggle with loneliness? Is it something that you have seen maybe in your friend circles? Like, what have you observed, that's led us to loneliness? Leave a comment, let me know. Also, don't forget to follow or subscribe to this podcast on your platform of choice and like it or rate it. Helps me a ton. It's free for you, takes like 10 seconds, and it means the world to me. So let's dive into the why. So for starters, social interaction has been declining steadily since the 1970s, according to the public notice. So that was definitely eye-opening because I'm like, okay, like, when I think back to the 80s and especially the 90s growing up, it's like, I didn't feel like loneliness was a thing. Maybe because I was a kid. I don't know. I don't know. But it's just like I felt like people were more communal. People were more interpersonal in their relationships. Like it was normal to go outside. It was normal to play outside, go to the mall, just walk around, eat at the food court, chill, meet up with your friends from after school. And then like talk to the neighbors and play with the neighbors. And I don't know. I just feel like we were outside more, like we were more communal. I feel like nowadays we almost intentionally want to be left alone. And I don't know if we're supposed to be, I don't think that's how God created us. I think he created us to desire community. So the fact that like, it seems like more and more, we're just like, I just want to be alone. I just want to be alone. It's like, it's weird. I don't know if like life just started lifing and we got to a point where we're like, I'm done. Or if like the Rona really did a number on us. And now a lot of us don't want to interact. I know for me, that's kind of my story because before the Rona, I was definitely more like yeah, let's go out. Let's do this. Let's do that. Now, granted, I did relocate to Atlanta right before the Rona. That was a doozy. Okay. That was a doozy. Definitely had me like, I'm good on the interaction, and then after the Rona, I just got comfortable. I got comfortable being alone. I got comfortable doing things by myself. And I've always enjoyed my own company. I think that it's healthy to have some you time alone, but to the point where like you want to isolate more than you probably should, to the point where it's affecting your health, like this public notice said, that's a bit much, So throughout the 70s, 80s, 90s, we see a decline in social interaction, and this is increasing the loneliness epidemic slowly but surely. Every year, every decade, it's getting worse. Then in the early 2000s, we see a major dip in social interaction, and we see a major increase in loneliness, and I'm not surprised by that because, I mean, think back to the early 2000s. That's when cell phones were becoming normalized, where the average consumer had one. That's where social media as we know it today was starting to be birthed and formed. So that's where you had your high fives, your, I think it's Bobo or Bebo, the ones that I would mention in the last episode, My Yearbook, MySpace, all these things, OG Facebook, and all of these different sites, so we were starting to shift from in-person interaction to let's take our interactions online, which was great in terms of opening up the world. I made friends, and to this day I have friends in states I've never even been to, in countries I've never even been to, so it's like I have connections all over the world, but we lost that in-person touch. And you can even see it in the way we talk to each other, the way we relate to each other. For my single ladies out there, the dating scene is totally different. When I think back 15 years ago to the dating scene, different, like totally different. It's just like we're losing that human touch, we're losing that human connectivity in so many ways, and it's showing in our behavior and the way we speak to each other and the way we treat each other. And then in the early 2000s, like I said, cell phones were becoming a normalized commodity amongst the average consumer. So back in the 80s, 90s, you were like either really, really wealthy, or you were like hustling and slinging, the different type of bricks to have a cell phone. Like, you were not out here just with a cell phone. Like, it was only certain people that had that. But as we go into the early 2000s, everyone's getting a cell phone. I remember my first cell phone. It was 2003. I was the first person in my high school to have a cell phone. Was it in my high school or my class? It was one of the two. I know definitely in my class. It might have been my high school, but I was definitely the first person in my class to have a cell phone. Everyone was like, oh my gosh, you got a cell phone. It was a Samsung R225. My sister and I had the same one. We got it from T-Mobile at an expo. It was black and white. Couldn't text because you had to pay like 25 cents per SMS. Could barely talk on the phone during the day. Barely. Okay. Because you had to pay per minute. So we were really excited to talk on the phone at 9 p.m. But the thing was, like, it still forced us to have in-person interaction, because chances are you're going to want to talk to your friend before 9 p.m. So y'all going to the mall, like I said, y'all hanging out. And if you were dating at that time, you're actually going on dates. Like, it was just more human connectivity. So, that's when we started to see the decline. But I have some theories as we fast forward to 2023 as to why loneliness has become an epidemic. For one, work-life balance is so difficult to come by. It is so difficult. I work for myself and I'm still struggling with work-life balance. I feel like probably even more so because I'm never clocked out. Like, there's always something to do. There's always something that arises. And I have to really force myself to say, I'm not handling that right now, because I'm like a grab the bull by the horns type of person. I like to handle things immediately. I like to get on it. I don't like my to-do list just kind of lingering. And so work-life balance is hard. And we're busier now more than ever, it seems. Like I said, back then, life seemed slower. Now it seems like we're just go, hustle, 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 get to the bag, got to do this, got to do that. Then if you're married, or you have a partner, or you're a parent, you're tending to all these different people. Sometimes you're taking care of an elderly parent. That's kind of the phase of life I'm walking into now, or walking through now. So it's like, by the time you do all of that, plus working and having to show up and do everything at the office or whatever, for whatever you do, a lot of times we purposefully isolate ourselves. Like I said earlier, we purposefully isolate ourselves. Like, we want to be alone, to decompress for a moment, to just gather our thoughts and like not have to pour into anybody. Because every interaction you have with somebody, it takes out, a debit out of your emotional energy bank. Like, you have to keep pouring into people. You have to keep having conversations. You have to, be attentive if you're going to be a good friend, a good partner, a good parent. Like, it takes energy. Like, it's a lot sometimes. Sometimes you're like, I don't want to talk to nobody. Like, and I'm like that. When I come home and my mom wants to talk and stuff, a lot of times I'm like, I just need a moment. Like, I just need to be silent. I just need to not talk. I just need to just sit down and just like veg out for a moment, because I am drained. I'm drained. Like, I have nothing else. So sometimes we are isolating ourselves, rightfully so. Like I said, alone time is needed, but it's like, where do you draw the line between I need this alone time and now I'm just, it's a little much. It's a little excessive. Like, and not allowing yourself to get into that funk where you're alone so much that it makes it hard for you to even get around other people. Like, you find excuses to not socialize. You find excuses to not leave the house. You find excuses to not go to events. You find, like, sometimes, yeah, say no. But if you literally are like always alone in the house. Like you got to really think like maybe I'm doing a little too much with this. Another reason why I believe that loneliness has become an epidemic in 2023 is, like I was saying earlier, the increased use in technology. Like we are so connected, but we're so disconnected at the same time. My phone right now, as I'm taping this podcast, I'm getting text messages, I'm getting notifications, I'm getting, alerts, I'm getting all these things. So I'm always connected. I'm always able to be reached, but still I don't have the deep connectivity that I need with other humans. Like still something is not clicking. Still I feel lonely. Still I feel unseen. Still I feel unimportant. Still I feel like, do I really matter? Like what's my purpose? What's the purpose of all of this, And so it's like we're connected, but we have an increase in surface level connection. Like deep rooted connection is hard to come by these days. I'm blessed with the 2 or 3 really close friends I have, plus my mom and sister, that is like deep connection where I can be vulnerable. I can be, just everything. I could be righteous, I could be ratchet, I could I could cry, I could laugh, I could, have an anxiety attack or depressive episode, and I'm not condemned, and I'm poured into, and it's like the veil is just taken off. Like, it's just like you're just completely vulnerable and just, available. Like I'm blessed to have that, but how many of us really have that? And how many of us can say that we are that for somebody too, And so I feel like social media has played a role in that, because social media has created shorter attention spans. It has, it has us portraying our lifestyles in a way that's worthy of the gram. So sometimes we're not even allowing ourselves to be vulnerable because we don't want people to see the clink in the armor. We don't want people to see the flaws, the faults. We don't want to be vulnerable. Sorry, y'all, my voice is just not working with me. We don't want to be vulnerable and allow people to see our weaknesses, see our pitfalls, see these things that we're struggling with as parents, as spouses, as, children, as siblings, as aunties and uncles or whatever. Like, we always want to just, it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. Like I'm good, and we kind of translate what we put on social media into our real lives to where, on Instagram, on Facebook, you're not going to go on there and be like, I'm struggling with my daughter about this, or I'm struggling with my mom about that, or me and my husband are going through this and that, or my son and I just, like you're not going to put all your dirty laundry online. Some of us are more vulnerable than others, but you're going to have a filter. But I feel like we take that filter that we apply online and we apply it into our real lives when we're not really supposed to. Like, and sometimes you really don't have a choice. Maybe, like I said, you don't have someone that you truly, really trust. And it's like, hey, like I can take the filter off and I could just be myself. Maybe that's not there, but we do need to try to get back to that or get to it if we never had it. I think everybody should have 1 or 2 deep rooted, multifaceted friendships where you can be all of you for the most part. I mean, I think we're always evolving. I don't think anybody would ever truly really see all of you except for God, but as close as possible. So I do believe that the increased use of technology does play a role in that, because like I said, we're taking that filtered, I only want you to see this part of my life mindset that we have online into our real life relationships, and we're losing that deep connectivity that allows us to feel valued, that allows us to feel seen, allows us to feel heard, allows for warmth and interpersonal relation, but also the shorter attention spans. Like nowadays, even, I mean, for my content creators out there, my business owners, like when you're making reels, when you're making content, you're always thinking, how can I get their attention in 3 seconds? How can I, like, our attention spans are so short. We don't have the endurance to really pour into relationships like we used to at one point. It's getting, social media has its perks, but it definitely has done a number on us. Definitely has done a number on us. The other reason why I feel like loneliness is an epidemic in 2023 is because of the lack of access or resources. So this is something I got from the public notice, which I thought was very profound, because we often don't think about resources and access when we're thinking about interpersonal relationships. Like the notice from the Surgeon General, had mentioned that sometimes we lack access to have deep relationships because you might not have a car, you might not have a job that allows you the flexibility to just like have a weekend off and, just chill with somebody. You might not have money, extra money. Because a lot of times, think about it, when we're going out, when we're hanging out, I know for me and my friends, at least, we're breaking bread. Like, how do y'all hang out with your friends and you don't eat? I don't get it. Like, someone comment down below and let me know that. Like, how do you not eat? How do you not partake in something, a beverage, a piece of bread, something? Like, we gotta eat something, like, something. It just doesn't make sense. And then a lot of times, even if they're coming to your house, that requires that someone has a car, unless you live in a place where you could take a bus or train. Then you gotta have money for the bus or train. Like, I know in New York the bus and train is pretty cheap, but in DC it's kind of pricey. Like, especially on the weekends, it just depends. But it's not as cheap as New York, I'll tell you that much. And it's not as thorough throughout the city as New York. Like, you could get to certain places, but after a certain point, it's gonna be like, well, might want to call that Uber, might want to call that Lyft, or just walk it out if you can. But maybe it's you guys don't live close enough for that. Maybe like I said, you're working. It's so many things, but access and resources, sometimes even having health issues. This was something that the public notice also said prevents you from really pouring into your relationships with social interaction. So that could increase loneliness. When I think about it, like, my mom and dad, certain things that they have experienced health-wise in their older age, it keeps them from going out. Like, those who don't know, my mom is legally blind now, so she can't really see. She can make out figures and stuff, but she can't really see. And it's hard for her to go out because, one, she can't drive anymore. She has to depend on me or someone else to drive her. She can't, just go and take a leisurely stroll because she can't see. She can't just go to the store, go to a museum, or go to a restaurant and order something to eat. Like, it literally requires that someone helps her with all of that. And so now her ability to have deepened relationships relies on the availability of someone else. And for me, y'all heard all the announcements I made at the beginning of this podcast. Like, I got so much going on, but I do definitely make sure, like, my sister and I make sure that my mom and our mom and us, we're taking care of her and we're doing what needs to be done. But it's like, I only have so many hours in a day, so then it's like, I'm trying to build my relationships. I'm trying to make sure you get relationships. Like, it's just so much. So health issues, people that are blind, people that are deaf, people that might not be mobile, maybe they're wheelchair bound or whatever. Like, it could just make it not impossible, but again, just harder to get that social interaction that can help curb the loneliness they might be experiencing. And so now you're in the house, and now, again, you're dependent on other people's time or other people's resources or other people coming to you. So these are all obstacles, to having deep relationships with one another, because spending time together really deepens a relationship. So if you're not able to spend time with someone and get that communal social interaction, you're going to reach a plateau. It's going to reach a point where it's like, okay, like, we're talking on the phone, we're texting, we're sending voice notes or whatever, but I need more. So I thought that was pretty interesting. The access and the resources to relationships, it's what keeps us from having those deep relationships sometimes. Then also, you might not have the relationships that you need to escape loneliness. So one thing that the public notice did mention was that in a perfect situation, we should have a myriad of relationships. So you should have your familial relationships. You should have platonic friends, romantic relationships, co-workers, community-based. So maybe y'all are gathering or, spending time together around a certain cause. Like, the more diverse relationships you have in your life, the better off you are, basically, was the bottom line of the public notice in that section that I got, So if you are someone who, and again, this doesn't mean that you don't experience loneliness, but it just sets you up for more success. So if you have good relationships with your family, you have, a good core group of friends, you're in a healthy, loving, romantic relationship, you have decent coworker relationships, you're involved in, volunteering or some nonprofit or community organization that is around a cause that you're passionate about. If you have all of those things, you are blessed and you are positioned for success as far as not experiencing loneliness in the same ways or at all, as other people do. And so sometimes you just don't have those diverse relationships. Like, in this season of my life, I have a good relationship with my family. I do have a good core group of friends. I would say that. I got one in particular that I talk to every day, Maya. Okay, y'all already know I was going to say Maya, but I talk to Maya every day. I have my best friend, Nicole. I got my girl, Ebony, so I got these friends that I can lean on. And I would say I love my friend group right now. Like, we definitely are each other's safe spaces. I got Molly, I got Alexis, and I have my community group, so I have a lot of friends out there. And if I didn't name you, you're important to me. It's quite a bit as I'm naming them. I'm like, oh wow, I got this person, I got that person. So if I didn't name you, don't feel a type of way. Okay. I love you. You are important to me. But that's basically as deep as it goes for me. Some of my friends are also business relationships, and business for me is work because I work for myself. So I'll just lump that together. So I have good work relationships, good friendships, good family relationships, but that romantic and that community, it's still a little lacking. I have my community groups, but now I'm at the point where I want to start partnering with other groups and doing other things to expand the impact on the community. And I'm kind of stepping into that territory now. But romantic, baby, we struggling right now. We're struggling right now, so, and it just also speaks to the fact that we need that romantic love too. And that's how God created us, at least. Like, sometimes we don't experience it, but God created us for companionship. So it's making sense. Like, as I was reading the article, I'm like, this is making sense. So for me, for instance, I'm surrounded by people mostly like in my close interpersonal relationships. The people that I'm surrounded by are in a different phase of life than me. I'm almost always a single friend or one of the 2 or 3 single friends out of the group at large, And so it can make it hard sometimes to hang out because, you want to be respectful of your friends' marriages or relationships, and they got things going on with their partners and with their children and all these things. And so it's like, I am a single mom, but I do have a little bit more free time than my friends who are in serious relationships or married. And so it can make it hard to get that social interaction because I could be like, hey, like, you want to go do this? You want to go do that? And they're just like, can't do it, can't do it this weekend or whatever. So I get what the article was saying and the public notice. Now, I will say too, like I don't remember if I said this at the beginning of the episode or not, but the Rona also had us more isolated than we had ever been before. And we're still dealing with the aftermath of that. So I do believe, and if I'm not forgetting anything and I'm thinking of the chart correctly, you do see that spike after the pandemic of loneliness, going up, and just mental health in general, mental health issues in general increasing and stuff because we were forced to isolate. We were forced to be alone. We realized at that point how important human connection is. Because before then it was easier, in my opinion, to be like, I'll skip that. Like, I don't feel like talking to anyone. I don't feel like seeing anyone. But after that, it's like, no, I gotta be outside. I gotta talk to people. I gotta see people, I gotta connect because I can't do this thing alone. So what can we do about the loneliness epidemic? For one, if you have a community organization like me, try to partner with other community organizations or try to prioritize creating opportunities for social connections. So going back, like I said at the beginning, if you're a single Christian woman, come out. Like I have literally told my ladies this time and time again. And I will say for the most part, I do have a pretty good turnout for being a new organization. I don't really pay for marketing religiously and stuff like that. Like I really just rely on word of mouth and good old content and prayer and faith, for people to come out. I do market sometimes, but I don't have like, a running ad budget or anything. But I always tell the ladies, come out. We don't realize how important human connection is until you feel the effects of it, until you're struggling with loneliness. And, we have to be willing to get outside of just our norms, get outside of who we're used to being around. So as I've mentioned, Single Save the City has monthly events. Tap in, even if it's virtual. If you're in the Atlanta area, or you will be when I'm hosting an in-person event or a meetup, come out. Meet other women, meet other people. You never know who your next best friend might be, your next prayer partner, your next business connect. You never know. So it's like, come out and have a good time. And like I said, I'm also trying to partner with other organizations. So if you have a singles group or, you have a singles ministry, or if you happen to be listening to this, because I know there's some men that listen, if you're a male-based singles group and you want to partner and do like an event together or whatever, definitely send me an email at formysisterspodcast@gmail.com. That would definitely just let me know, like, hey, I heard your podcast. I would love to do an event, partner with you. I really want to expand, like doing more. And even if you're not singles based, but, right now I'm partnering with the Encouraging Her community, and that's my friend Jasmine's community. And it's not just for single women, but on Saturdays, I'm ministering to the single women in that community. So, even if you're not singles based, but you have a community organization around a certain cause or whatever, you think we could be a good fit, then just like I said, email me, formysisterspodcast@gmail.com. Let's partner. Let's do some things. Let's make an impact. Let's actually be the change. Let's be the change. Let's be different. But let's prioritize creating those opportunities for social connection. As individuals, what we can do is, like I mentioned briefly, participate in community and social groups. So go out when you see the events, sign up, come out. Don't just be a spectator, like actually really engage, be present in the moment. So when you do come out, avoid overusing your phone when you're out in social settings, when you're hanging out with someone or, a group. I'm not saying don't take pictures, don't take video, because you're going to see me capture footage for a reel or something for content. But, just try to not overuse, try to be present, like actually have conversation, get to know that person. If you're pulling out your phone, let it be for something like taking a picture together or just capturing a quick moment or exchanging information. Let's get back to that. Like, let's be present and actually listen to people. Be responsive and supportive and practice gratitude. Be to others what you'd like to receive. This is important for loneliness. So if someone's going through a hard time, take the initiative to step in. Maybe someone doesn't have enough, doesn't have enough money for groceries. Like, be responsive to that. Be like, how can I help? Let me cash up them some money. Let me buy them some groceries, and drop it off at their house. Maybe they have something coming up, like they're participating in a play, like a local play. Show up, be supportive, go watch the play, share it and bring some friends, practice gratitude. Like, practicing gratitude can help you shift from, shift your mindset from, oh my goodness, I'm so lonely, to like, I do have people that care about me. I do have people that love me. I am blessed, because like I said, the enemy is slick, but we're slicker. Okay. He's not going to get us, because all he does is come to steal, kill, and destroy. He wants you to feel like you don't matter, like your life has no purpose, like no one cares about you, so you got to start like rebuking those things when they pop in your head. And it's a process, it's a process. Be gracious to yourself, but practicing gratitude can really shift your mentality, because literally, psychologically speaking, we can't think positive and negative at the same time. So it's like, if you're focused on positive things and you're practicing gratitude, the negative thoughts don't hold as much weight. I'm not saying they'll never come, but they don't hold as much weight. Also, seek help during times of struggle. This is a big one. Isolation makes struggle 10 times worse. And a lot of us are struggling in silence. And that a lot of times is a cultural thing. Different, I believe, cultures and communities really harp in on this. And I can get it to a degree as to why some people might do that, because I've been in that predicament where I'm like, I'm not telling nobody what I'm going through right now, the weight of what I'm going through. I'm going to just struggle with just me and God. But it's like, no, like, seek counsel in trusted friends, trusted family, maybe even going to a church or organization, seeking a counselor, a therapist, even a healthcare provider. If you feel like this loneliness is trickling into something more severe, like depression or something, talk to a healthcare provider. Don't continue to struggle in silence, because you're not the only one. As we see, 2/3 of adults are going through this in some way, shape, or form. So don't be ashamed, if you have to seek help. Like, it's okay. And it's better that you seek help than to continue to bear the weight of struggling in silence. You can even call a crisis hotline as well. They have different 800 numbers, or 888 numbers that you can call. But seek the help, because when you seek the help with a trusted source, that lessens the loneliness too, because a lot of the loneliness feeling is rooted in, I'm not worthy, I'm not seen, I'm not heard, I don't matter. So when you seek the help and you're getting the help, it helps to curb those emotions. And last but not least, I mentioned this briefly, but I'll say it again, engage with different people. We have to get out of our normal friend groups and get to know people that you may not normally hang out with, because sometimes we're lonely because we're looking to only be with the people that we've been running and riding and dying with for, the last 10, 15, 20 years. But it's like, there's other friendships out there. If you're in a new city, go out there and try to make some friends. You don't need a ton of friends. Loneliness doesn't need to be cured by you having 200 friends and people just blowing up your phone all day. If you have 1 or 2 trusted, solid friends, you're good. Like there's a proverb in the Caribbean that says a good friend is better than pocket money. A good friend is better than pocket money because they are your safe space. They are the ones that can pray for you. They are the ones that can actually give you a lending hand. Like, like I said, the first quarter of this year, I was fighting for my life. I was fighting for my life when 2023 started. I did not anticipate the year started like that, but I needed that. And it was a lot of lonely nights. It was a lot of lonely nights, a lot of mental turmoil, emotional turmoil. But it was my friendships. It was the community around me. It was my mom and sister, like be in that safe space for me to just pour my heart out, for me to cry, for me to vent. And of course, God always got my back. He always got your back. So you're never alone in that sense. But we do need that human connection because he made us for companionship, connectivity, and all of that. So, those are some tips as to how we can change the loneliness epidemic. Just being more involved, being more responsive and supportive, being more attentive when we're in front of someone, getting to know other people, branching out, going out, get outside, get outside and go to the events. And if you're listening to this and you're single and saved and you ain't come to a virtual event yet or in-person event, join us and stop playing. Join us, okay, and get the connectivity. Like it's so important, y'all. It's so important. Again, loneliness impacts us the same way smoking 15 cigarettes a day will. And you might not feel lonely. You might be like, I'm not lonely, but even still, someone else might be feeling lonely and you might be a light to that person. It never hurts to just connect and to just, bond with people. So that's all I have for this podcast episode. I hope that this was insightful. Like I said, when I saw the public notice, I said, oh, wait a minute, I got to read this. I'm someone who has struggled with loneliness quite a bit. So, I hope that this encourages someone out there who has been struggling with loneliness to know that you are not alone. Okay. And to really just be open to maybe taking some steps to rectifying the situation and to know that it will get better. Okay. It will get better. You matter. You are important. We need you. So don't feel like you don't. I will see you guys on the next episode or talk to you on the next episode. And like I said, I will share more about my anxiety and depressive episodes. So I know it won't be Mental Health Awareness Month anymore, but I still want to continue the conversation. So don't forget, like, subscribe, rate, all of the things, leave a comment, and I will see you on the next episode. Love you, sisters. Thank you for tuning into this week's episode of For My Sisters with Delle Podcast. Don't forget to keep the conversation going and use the hashtag For My Sisters Pod on social media so I can see you and show you some love. If there are any topics you'd like me to discuss on the podcast, be sure to email formysisterspodcast@gmail.com. I'll see you on the next episode. Love you. Bye.